Shalom guys, welcome back to another episode here at YASHAV Ministries with YASHAV. I appreciate you for being there, always supporting us every week for the weekly Torah portions. Like I always tell you, if you like the content that we have on our channel, like, subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, put them in the comment section down below. I also put websites to locations to where I learn from, whether it be our congregation, it is a Hispanic congregation, or Israel Yara. On YouTube, I put Wisdom in Torah, Treasure of the Temple, which is Rico Cortez, a great teacher. And so those are resources that you can go to if you don't want to listen to me. If you appreciate listening to me, those are resources that you can use to guide yourself, and they have more knowledge than I do. So with that being said, before we get started with the Torah portion, let's do the Torah blessing. Baruch et Adonai Chamevora, Baruch Adonai Chamevora, Leolam Bae, Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch Adonai Ben HaTorah. Bless Adonai who is blessed. Bless Adonai who is blessed now and forever. Blessed are you, Adonai, sovereign of the universe, who has chosen us from among the nations and has given us the Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, giver of the Torah. Amen. So, like I said, this week's Torah portion is Korach. Let's get started. So Korach, where do we start with Korach? So last week we understood that we had the 12 spies. The 12 spies went into the land. They basically rejected the land, the gift that was promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They have been fulfilling this prophecy, and it is a crucial time in Israel right now for the people. But they kept rebelling, right? And as we learned last week, they rebelled 4 times, right? First in the desert, when they got into the desert, then because of the meat, then Miriam, the land, and they don't want to stop rebelling against Moses and Aaron and God, the creator, the one that delivered them from Egypt, that redeemed them from slavery. Now, they weren't completely enslaved the whole time they were in Egypt, but the moment that they were enslaved, they cried out and God came and saved them. So right now we are in Torah portion Korach, okay? So we're going to start reading and then we will understand what is going on, okay? So let's get started. So it says, Vayicha Korah ben Yitzhar ben Kahat ben Levi Wadatan wa Abiram ben Eliab wa O ben Ele ben Reuben. Okay, in English, it says the following. Now, Korah, son of Ishar, son of Kohat, the son of Levi, with Dathan, and Abiram, the son of Eliab, and On, the son of Peleh, the son of Reuben, took action, and they rose up before Moses, together with some of the sons of Israel, 250 leaders of the congregation, chosen in the assembly, men of renown. They assembled together against Moses and Aaron, and said to them, "You have gone far enough, for all the congregation are holy, every one of them, and the Lord is in their midst. So why do you exalt yourself above your assembly of the Lord?" When Moses heard this, he fell on his face, and he spoke to Korah and all his company, saying, "Tomorrow morning the Lord will show who is holy, will bring him near himself, even the one whom he will choose, he will bring near to himself. Do this, take a censer for yourself, Korah, and all your company, and put fire in them, and lay incense upon them in the presence of the Lord tomorrow. And the man whom the Lord choose shall be one who is holy. You have gone far enough, you sons of Levi." Then Moses said to Korah, "Hear now, you sons of Levi, it is not enough for you that the God of Israel has separated you from the rest of the congregation of Israel to bring you out near to himself. Do the service of the tabernacle to the Lord, and to stand before the congregation to minister them, and that has brought you near. Korah, all your brothers, sons of Levi, with you. And are you seeking for the priesthood also? Therefore you and all your company are gathered together against the Lord. But as for Aaron, who is he that you grumble against him?" Then Moses sent a summon to Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, but they said, "We will not come." Is it not enough that you have brought us up out of the land flowing with milk and honey to have us die in the wilderness? But you would also lord it over us. Indeed, you have not brought us into the land flowing with milk and honey, nor have you given us an inheritance of fields and vineyards. Will you put out the eyes of these men? We will not come up. Then Moses became very angry and said to the Lord, do not regard their offering, and I have not taken a single donkey from them, nor I have done harm to any of them. Moses said to Korah, you and all your company be present before the Lord tomorrow, both of you, they, along with Aaron. Each of you take his fire pan and put incense on it, and each of you bring his censer before the Lord. 250 fire pans. Also, you and Aaron shall each bring his fire pan. So they each took his own censer and put fire on it, and laid incense on it, and they stood in the doorway of the tent of meeting with Moses and Aaron. Thus Korah assembled all the congregation against them at the doorway of the tent of meeting. And the glory of the Lord appeared to the congregation. Then the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, separate yourselves from among the congregation, that I may consume them instantly. But they fell on their faces and said, O Elohim, God of the spirits of the flesh, when one man sins, will you be angry with the entire congregation? And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the congregation, saying, get back around the dwellings of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. Then Moses arose, went to Dathan and Abiram, with the elders of Israel following him, and he spoke to the congregation, saying, depart now from the tents of these wicked men, and touch nothing that belongs to them, or you will be swept away in all their sin. So they got back from around the dwellings of Korah, Dathan and Abiram, and Dathan and Abiram came out and stood at the doorway of their tents along with their wives and their sons and their little ones. Moses said, by this you shall know that the Lord has sent me to do all these deeds, for this is not my doing. If these men die the death of all men, or if they suffer the fate of all men, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord brings about an entirely new thing, and the ground opens its mouth and swallows them up with all that is theirs, and they descend alive into Sheol, then you will understand that these men have spurned the Lord. As he finished speaking all these words, the ground that was under them split open, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up, and their households, and all the men whom belonged to Korah with their possession. So, right now, as we have read a lot for the beginning of this Torah portion, but I wanted you to understand the context of what's going on. So, Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, right? They decided to usurp Moses and Aaron's position. Now, we're going to read some notes that I have here, and we're going to understand what is the problem here. We're going to try to dissect a little bit of this problem, okay? So, let's go. So Korach. So that's chapter 16, verse 1 through chapter 18, 32. The prophet portion is 1 Samuel 11, 14 through chapter 12, verse 22. And the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament portion, is Acts 5, verse 1 through 11. Here, we see that Levi, they're the ones chosen for the priesthood. We understand that there was Gershon, Kohat, and Merari. From Torah portion Naso and Torah portion Bamidbar, we understood that was a census of the people and a census of the Levites. So Kohat was given the responsibilities of carrying the holy sacred things, obviously with the supervision of the sons of Aaron, making sure that they don't touch these things without them being prepared, covered, and that they would enter the sanctuary with anything that was uncovered. So, but they had the privilege of carrying the holiest things. So Kohat had 4 sons, as we see, Amram, Ishar, Hebron, and Uziel. Kohat is the son of Ishar, as we saw. And Korah was responsible for carrying the holy things of God, the Creator, okay? Now, Korah and Reuben, right? So now we have the descendants of Reuben, right? Dathan and Abiram. And it's interesting because it says here, in ancient Near East, the position of leadership often fell on the eldest son of the family of the patriarchs. That's why we see Reuben, who is Jacob's firstborn. He wanted to claim what they perceive as their rightful position in Israel. Understand, Moses is the leader. Reuben, apparently now that they can't enter the land because of their disobedience and them rejecting the land and then their rebellious acts, they cannot enter the land. They were told that they were going to die in the desert. They're frustrated, they're scared, and so now they feel like the only way that they can overturn this is turning on Moses and Aaron. But the problem is that there was consequences to their actions and they didn't want to respond for those. They didn't want to assume and understand that you guys made a mistake, doubting Elohim and turning on the chosen people of Elohim, which was Moses and anybody that was on their side. And so that is why Reuben is saying, well, you know what? I am the firstborn, Kohat. You are a Levite. Let's just team up and overturn them. But they're not paying attention to what they're doing. Korah, on the other hand, is a Kohite. Their responsibility, if we remember, was to transport the sacred furnishings after being packed by the Aaronic priests. And we see this in Numbers 4:15. And when Aaron and his sons have finished covering the sanctuary, all the vessels of the sanctuary, when the camp sets out, the descendants of Korah, the Kohath, will come after to carry these. But they must not touch the sanctuary, or they will die. These are the load of the descendants of Kohath in the tent of assembly. Now, the biggest problem that we see in this Torah portion is encroachment. Now, encroachment, what is encroachment? What is the definition of what is a simple definition of encroachment? So encroachment is the intrusion on a person's territory or rights. Korah and Reuben, understanding that they had lost their position, decided that they were going to usurp the position that God gave them and usurp the position that God gave Moses and Aaron. It says here, encroachment in the ancient Near East is attested in both the secular and the sacred realm. Now, the nature of encroachment precisely and how one encroaches upon sacred property is not stated in the Bible, right? So there's not a specific detail where it says you will be encroaching if you do such and such, right? So we use the references of the ancient Near East to understand these concepts that if when we see it from afar, we will not understand. But in the Hittite law, we see the following. The Hittite instructions for the temple officials. This text lists types of encroachment by those most likely to commit them, which are the temple staff or the farmers and the herdsmen employed in the temple fields. Okay, so encroachment in the Hittite kingdom in ancient Near Eastern societies was committed by keeping or eating or using or selling or gifting, delaying or exchanging temples, animals, fields, or grain, which mainly were used for offerings and sacrificial presentations to the gods. Also by taking for yourself or altering or wearing the temple's utensils or garments, by changing the time fixed for rites, which means the ceremonial acts, right? The rituals, sacrificial, liturgical prescribed, like the steps that we saw in Leviticus. Changing those steps was a type of encroachment. Also, women, children, and servants, even the priests as well as also the foreigners, are considered encroachers if they enter sacred precincts. Okay, so we understand why this mindset of Korah and Reuben is encroaching the position of Aaron, the position of Moses. But not only that, they're encroaching God's command and order. God gave this to the Levites, gave them a position. You do your role. Koha, Gerson, Merari, Aaron, Eleazar, right? You guys do your role. Moses does his role. The Israelites do their role. The 70 elders that were chosen do their role. The leaders were supposed to do their role. But here, Korah and Dathan and Abiram decide to encroach God's order, meaning they decided to step over. They decided to intrude, to overstep their boundaries on what God had established. Now let's keep reading. The tabernacle in the sacred space. From the standpoint of the deity, the temple is his or her state of residence. The earthly temple was a symbol and an echo, a shadow of the heavenly residence. So it served as a link, a bond, or even a portal to the heavenly residence, meaning it was a connection to the heavens. It was a representation of what heaven was. These temples were constructed to be place of rest for deity, though the concept of relaxation or even indolence is not lacking. Rest also is mainly concerned mostly with the achievement of stability, security, and order. The deity can rest in his or her temple because the threat of chaos has been dispelled. The deity then takes his or her place in the order, controlled cosmos, which the leisure of enjoyment, his or her estate. So understanding that, we're missing the point. And the reason why I put that part with the temple and the sacred space is that the people of Israel, Korah, and them spreading, right? Because Korah eventually spreads this mindset around the people again, like last week. The spies spread the thought on the people. And then God commits judgment. The people get scared. And so these leaders believe that they can do their own will and they feel like they can implement their own opinion and that they don't have to hold themselves to Moses and Aaron, but they're forgetting the big picture and understanding that what God wants to establish and what God has been wanting to establish since the book of Exodus, Leviticus, in the beginning of this book of Bamidbar was order, structure, a cosmos, right? These thoughts that I read is something that ancient Near Eastern communities believed. They believed that the God in the temple represented order, structure, peace, stability. Egypt, Mesopotamian, Hittites, Canaanites, Jebusites, all of these Amalekites, all these people in their temple believe that their God fulfilled this. Elohim is trying to tell Israel, I am the real one, and this is how we're going to establish order, stability, peace in the cosmos. You are the first step. Represent me, obey me, fulfill your role. Don't step on each other's toes, because each of you has a function. The moment that you decide to step on somebody's role, you're not stepping on them, you're stepping on the one who gave them that role. And in the process of you stepping over those people, you're rejecting what you were given, which you do double whammy. You reject what God gave you, and you usurp what God gave somebody else. Okay, so what we need to focus on, and we will read this because I feel like it's very important to close out. It's very quick. It's the following. Yeshua, the great teacher, says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away, and every branch that bears fruit, he prunes it, so that it may bear more fruit. You are already clean because of the word which I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, so neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me, and I in him, he bears much fruit, for apart from me you can do nothing. If anyone does not abide in me, he is thrown away as a branch and dries up, and they gather them and cast them into the fire. They are burned. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. My Father is glorified by this, that you bear much fruit, and so prove to be my disciples. Just as the Father has loved me, I have also loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love. Just as I have kept my Father's commandment and abided in his love. These things I have spoken to you, so that my joy be in you, and that your joy may be made full. This is my commandment, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that one laid down his life for his friends. You are my friends. If you do what I command you, no longer do I call you slaves, for the slaves do not know what his master is doing. But I have called you friends, for all things that I have heard from my Father I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you, and I appointed you that you will go and bear fruit, and that your fruit will remain, so that whatever you ask of the Father in my name, he may give to you. This I command you, that you love one another. And if the world hates you, you know that it has hated me before. If you were of the world will love its own. But because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, because of this world hates you. Remember the word that I said to you, a slave is not greater than his master. If they persecute me, they will also persecute you. If they keep my word, they will keep yours also. But all these things they will do to you for my name's sake, because they do not know the one who sent me. So Yeshua is saying, focus on your role. Focus on obeying God's word, because by you doing that, you will represent Yeshua. And by representing Yeshua, you will bear great fruit, just as he did, because what he did was obeying his father. Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, they didn't do this. They decided to take things in their own hands, be creative, overtake God. While Moses and Aaron fell on their faces and prayed for them, for their forgiveness, for Elohim to spare them. Elohim in this Torah portion commits judgment, opens the ground, swallows them alive. He burns them with their incense bowls. He gives Aaron staff, the fruit, choosing him. This Torah portion gives the Levitical priesthood the responsibility to represent the people, that on them falls the people's stumbling, because if they don't apply themselves and the people stumble, it falls on them. We're called to be representatives of God's kingdom, and we say we believe in Yeshua, and we say we believe in the Father, but if we're not ministering the order, the structure of Elohim, then we're not ministering the love for one another. Loving one another doesn't mean that we have to just do whatever we want and just accept that. No, loving one another is correcting each other, growing together, and understanding that we're here to obey the creator of heaven and earth. And that should be the goal. Moses knew his role. Aaron knew his role. Yeshua knew his role. He wasn't looking for somebody else. He wasn't looking at what other people were doing. He was fulfilling his role and his purpose. He was obeying the voice of Elohim and his word. And he gave fruit because he was obedient and he was consistent at all times. So bear fruit, be obedient. Please focus. Don't lose your focus because we have a long ways to go in this desert. So that being said, have a great week. Shavuot Tov and Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.